You're listening to Prep Insider Radio with your hosts, Tommy Morris.
Good. This is nothing to do with Sage Creek Baseball. I'm sorry, but have you seen a series of Fortunate Events?
Christian Pedersen.
I mean, I'm out here grinding. I'm putting in hours. I'm getting there at 5 a.m. to cheer on the water polo team at practice. I'm showing up to our basketball team. I'm showing up to our football games. We don't even have a football team, and I'm supporting that.
Noah Laxina.
And Noah Laxina's number 3 tip for Valentine's Day is...
Chill, man. Things are going to be all right. All right? You don't want to force it. Let it happen. You're going to be all right.
And Bodie De Silva from Scorebook Live.
I mean, he brought basketball into that one. I got to give him 9 out of 10. I like it.
What's happening, sports fans? Christian and Tommy this week coming at you for another episode of San Diego Prep Insider. Thank you very much for joining us. We are back on the Zoom because we're trying to be socially responsible and distant. Tommy is so isolated, he is doing it from his car today. So we apologize for any blinker and or clicky noises in the background there. Last time we were in studio together, or on a show together, we were saying hopefully less than 30 days until the season. That is now hopefully just over 30 days until the season, as earlier this week, the state CIF announces a pushback until at least January of 2021. And the CIF section comes out with their own statement, basically echoing that, saying we are doing everything that we humanly can to make this happen as soon as we get the green light. But ultimately, everything that we hear from either entity, state or section level at the CIF comes down to the caveat of with the state's guidance and approval. So Tommy is all sorts of geared up for one opinion. I've got another. We're going to make it happen. There's going to be a season in some form. I don't know what it's going to be. Tommy doesn't know what it's going to be. If any of you do know what it's going to be, please let us know. But until then, Tommy Morris has his rants and opinions. Tommy?
It's going to be a long one, so buckle in. It is a rant. It is an opinion. It is a little bit of both. It's more of a debate forum, I guess. I don't know. Here's the thing. I think all good opinions, thoughts, rants, you have to present the other side first. As one of our former interns would tell you, who was a debate champion, you got to give the opposition, then you give your counter to the opposition. So here's what it is.
Well, so I think that's what you and I are also going to be today, because I have a feeling that we fall on different ends of the spectrum here.
Okay, so that'll work too. So I'll just say right before we even start, just so that we know where I'm standing before I start getting on one thing and people freak out that I'm saying one thing or another. I think the kids should be allowed to play as of December 12th. I think that wholeheartedly, that's what I think. So, but I need to present the other side of the argument so you understand why my argument's valid, because I don't want to just stand on my soapbox and yell that let the kids play, let the kids play, because that doesn't get you anywhere. Because you're not presenting any facts, arguments, or anything. You're just yelling, basically. So here is why they shouldn't play. I'm saying they should play as of right now. I said in August, let them play now or don't let them play ever, because nothing's going to change in January. Here we are, and it's even worse. So here's why I shouldn't play. We have clearly the most cases of COVID that we've seen, by not even close, especially in our area, correct? Hospitalizations are up. Whatever metric you want to look at, they're all up. So don't say, oh, there's more tests now, so that's why there's more cases. It doesn't matter. The main number that we need to be concerned about is hospitalizations and deaths, because nobody wants a hospital full of people who are dying of COVID and then someone gets in a car accident and then nobody can see them, and it becomes a nightmare. You can't overburden the healthcare system. I'm fully on board with that. That is fine. I understand. That was one thing. The second point, too, and this is one that nobody makes. Nobody makes this point because nobody thinks about it. I'm a big believer in human nature. The problem with letting people, and when you talk about even NFL, college, NBA, Major League Baseball, whatever it is, the second you give people a sense of normalcy, they start to lose the reminder that there is a serious virus going on, because it gives them a false sense of security, if that makes any sense. So people in their mind say, well, I'm watching the NFL, or I'm watching college basketball, or my kid's going to high school football practice. There are no rules, whatever. And that's not the case. This is not the flu. For people who say, oh, it's just the flu, it doesn't matter, blah, blah, it's not. Look at any number you want. It is much, much, much more deadly than the flu. The advantage being, to kids at least, that it's less deadly for kids. But if you're older or have any sort of a compromised immune system, it is very, very bad, period. Don't pretend like there aren't people in the hospital right now, because there are, and there's a lot of them. So it is not the flu, A. And yes, yes, it's bad. Everybody thinks they're going to be one of those lucky people who's, asymptomatic until it hits them. I know a lot of people have had it already. Almost none of them are asymptomatic. That if you're banking on that, you're insane. That's not the case. So why should they be allowed to play if I'm basically openly saying that by letting them play, people are going to relax a little bit on being careful and have this false sense of security and all that kind of stuff? I think we just need to be honest with people. I think people need to look at the situation and look at the facts and information and say, okay, what is something that we know is okay and what is something that we know is not okay? It's not generally okay to be indoors. Indoors, a bunch of people, terrible idea. Outdoors, great idea. Outdoors, separated, fantastic idea. Outdoors, near a lot of people with masks on, probably not the worst thing. Without masks on, limit your time. We know all this. We know all this, we know all this, we know all this. So, what else do we know? Kids, lower rate of transmission, lower rate of having severe symptoms. Facts, okay? We know now with enough of it, because NFL has a technology where they have the chips in their uniforms. We know now the magic number right now is 15 minutes around somebody infected. Almost no time during any NFL game, and this is including linemen, was anybody around another individual for long enough, on the other team, for long enough for that to happen. Nobody was around each other 15 minutes. Didn't happen. We're talking just about football now. Now I'm going to go on a separate tangent because I should have started with this tangent. Golf, tennis. I'm starting to name more some outdoor sports for me. Non-traditional.
Water polo. Field hockey.
Yeah, water polo extent. Not so much of those, but let's go with cross country. There are some sports that are legal for me to play right now. I could go right now and go get tee time. I can go right now and get on a tennis court. I can go right now and play maybe outdoor badminton. Okay, I can do all this right now under the guidelines. So why are we telling kids in sports that aren't football, that aren't basketball, you can't play? That's insane. Baseball, you can probably safely play right now. You're spread out. It's been proven through Major League Baseball. There's no transmission in between teams. The way people get in trouble is the players are hanging out with each other outside of the game because they're all teammates and they share locker rooms, all kind of stuff. And that's when the transmissions happen. It doesn't happen from team to team. We know all this now. There's enough information out there now. We know. Okay. I think it's crazy that kids in those sports have gotten their season tickets away. Specifically, golfers and tennis players. Specifically, that's not fair. Track, even to an extent, completely unfair. You're outside, you're running, you're in your lane, you're not around anyone. Maybe you don't do batons or something like that. You find some other way around that. There's zero reason why those sports should be stopped because for all we know right now, there's no transmission when participating in that activity. It's insane. The problem is CIF caters itself so much to football and basketball that they don't think about things like that, which drives me nuts because it's not fair to. We pride ourselves, Christian, on covering as many sports as possible, and there are certain sports that you can play right now under CDC guidelines, and it wouldn't matter. Going back to my rant about football. Sorry, I went a little bit off there on topic. Now we have enough information in other states where you can compare kids who are playing a sport versus kids who are not. The same amount of kids are getting sick that don't participate in the sport that do participate in the sport. There is no difference. Kids are going to get sick no matter what. I hate to break it to you. It's a horrible thing. It's not a fun time to be a part of. It's a global pandemic. It's awful. The same amount of kids are going to get sick sitting at home or hanging out with their friends because they're going to, that are going to get sick playing football. The benefit of having them outside playing football, A, there's somebody policing them and yelling at them to separate and follow all the rules because the coaches don't want the season to get canceled either. So you have more supervision. B, they're outside. And I can't stress this enough. My frustration with a lot of these rules is it's ignoring the fact that human nature is going to take over, and the people who want to hang out with people are going to do it anyway. You have two options: you either let them do it in a supervised environment, or you let them do it at home. The most dangerous thing for coronavirus is to have a large gathering in a small room. Period. And if you're not letting kids go run around and play football or go run around and play, I think even something like volleyball, you could take outdoor nets and play on grass. You could definitely do it. It would be weird, but you could definitely do it. If you're not letting them participate in those things, they're going to hang out with each other. And it's almost impossible to police that. And I know it's good intention to say and sit and be like, oh, well, if we all just stay inside and stay in our homes and blah, blah, blah. The reality of it is it's not going to happen. So you're better off mitigating the risk by having people outdoors and supervised rather than in their homes and hanging out with other people, because at the end of the day, there's some people, and I know it sounds crazy, there are parents who care enough about it, who are so willing to sacrifice themselves for their kids that they'd be willing to literally risk their lives for their kid to have kind of somewhat of a sense of normalcy. So you have to factor all those things in. From all intents and purposes, I don't think there is any more risk in a community spread by allowing kids to play football. If anything, there's less, to be honest with you, than there is if you tell them to all stay home. That is my overarching ending to this rant. The biggest fear for us, for all people during the pandemic, is global spread. Playing football specifically does not contribute to that. I won't speak on basketball. I don't think baseball participates in it in giving a spread. I don't think golf contributes to giving a spread. I don't think tennis does. There are so many sports that you could either modify or play the way they are right now and not have a problem. And it's just insane to take that away from kids just because you're scared of what the optics might be. Rant over.
All right, deal. I didn't. You were Marshawn Lynch going down the field there. I just want to make sure you were thoroughly across the goal line with your celebration there at the end. I don't disagree with you. I more nitpick with you on some of this stuff, and because I feel like where you are standing and what you are saying right now certainly echoes the majority opinion of people, of
Correct.
coaches, of fans, of fill in the blank. What I counterpoint to you is I say that definitively, I do not believe that CIF ignores or only considers certain sports. I think that it is an unfortunate reality or not an unfortunate, but I think it's a reality where I would think that it's very unlikely that CIF would approve a return to play that favors one sport or the other. So as much as, yes, they could by all means come up with a way to do golf right now and to do cross country right now, to do some of those sports right now, I don't think that CIF is motivated in the same facilities that the NCAA was to say, look, if we don't get these football games back, we're in danger of programs running out of money. I don't think that CIF is out here individualizing sports, saying, all right, look, green light on one, not on the other. They're more of we're here for everybody. And that sometimes does come across as the cookie cutter applies. It's specifically built for football, basketball, baseball, and then it just applies to every other sport. That's more of a playoff argument than a return to play argument.
But then, so here was my issue even when they came out with the seasons. My issue with all of that was they did season 1, season 2. You know you're going to have a problem with season 1. You know it. And you're probably going to have a problem with season 2. Maybe less a problem, but you're going to have one. Why would you not front load season 1 with all sports that are easier to play given the situation? It makes no sense. I don't. You're setting yourself up for failure by not doing it that way, in my opinion.
So
I
what
don't know why
sports
golf
would
couldn't be season 1.
Go ahead.
Golf, cross country. I don't know the numbers on soccer, so I can't speak to it, but I'm assuming they're probably not that bad. Just because it's similar to football, that you're running around, but you're not really near anybody. Tennis, obviously, I think track could have been season 1. Track you could easily do during a pandemic. There's a lot of them you could do, and the problem is they don't want to mix, and for reasons other than monetary reasons, obviously they don't want to mix basketball and football because a lot of kids play both. I understand that. That makes perfect sense to me. That's fine. Baseball could easily be one. Softball could be one. You could. I know this is not a popular opinion. You could easily play volleyball outside. You go to a park. It would be weird. You have to play in grass, but you could do it.
Well, no, beach volleyball is becoming a legitimate part of this ecosystem.
No, I'm saying
yeah.
but I'm saying full volleyball. Beach volleyball is only 2 and 2, but yeah, or just say, all right, everyone's play beaches here. Fine. I don't. There's ways to do it. It was frustrating to me earlier in the summer because I didn't have a sense that we would have 0 cases at any point. And here's the other issue too. The problem with, and I will go back on your point too. It will probably be impossible to play a season if the standard is if one kid on your team has coronavirus, the whole team is out for 2 weeks. Because unlike the NCAA, unlike NFL, unlike NBA, you don't have the technology to say, well, this person was around this person for this amount of time, so now they're high risk, they can't play either. You have to just assume they all did. They all were. And that would make it impossible. So the other difficult thing, and I'm siding with CIF on this because I don't know how you solve this problem. The only way to do it is you have the parents sign a waiver saying, hey, look, you agree that playing the sport is not a quote unquote high risk activity. They will not be hanging out in locker rooms together. They will not be watching film together. They will not be indoors together. They will be doing the activity and leaving. If one kid is sick, you have to agree that it is not a high risk situation for them to have been on the field together. If you can't get that, you can't play. And I think that's part of the problem too, because it will be literally impossible to play a season if the standards are, if one kid has it, whole team's out.
Yeah, don't just.
And I'm not saying either's right or wrong. I'm not saying either's right or wrong. I'm just saying that if those are standards, it's impossible.
Well, and the standards also just of paying for testing and of all of that. And I keep encouraging people to go back and re-listen to it. But we did about an hour with former CIF San Diego Section Assistant Commissioner John Labetta about just how layered the financial and legal obligations are for schools and sections. And to me, Tommy, a lot of the frustration, jumping over to my side of the rant, is that the state is putting CIF in a very unfortunate situation where I feel like people are misperceiving what's going on as CIF canceling seasons or CIF doing this. CIF wants to play. CIF wants to come out and say, bro, we're gonna get these games in. We're gonna play these games. We're gonna do all this. They are not an organization, though, that has the ability to compel member schools to do this stuff. They don't have the ability to come out and set their own guidelines that can supersede local or state ordinance. And as long as those schools do kind of what you said, where it's signing a waiver, participation, and acknowledging all the dangers to do it. CIF can only go up to the letter of the law, and that if Governor Newsom is saying, here are the exact boundaries, CIF can go up to those but not past those. They are in a position, though, where CIF has been saying for months, here is where we are going to aim to get the season started. And then the governor's office is just like, okay, we hear you. We are not going to give you any updated anything. Not an updated yes guideline, not an updated no guideline, not an updated timeline guideline, just it's coming. And so CIF has to entirely jump on the grenade and be the ones coming out with a press conference or press release saying, we're moving your sports back, when it's them taking flack for the state not having those testing protocols of, like you said, what happens when somebody does get COVID on your team? What happens when this gets it? What happens when this? Here's more money for schools to be able to do this. Here's more money for transportation. Here's more, or more guidelines or more regulations or this, that, or the other. And that's, to me, what is more frustrating than anything is that people are perceiving this as Ron Nichetti and all of the commissioners getting together saying, ooh, we got them. We're gonna push this back to this. No, it's a
no.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't blame CIF at all. There's nothing they can do. They can't. They're not going to break a rule, the state rule. It's not going to happen. But I will say, again, going back to my frustration earlier, why can't if I right now, and I'm going to do it later today, this afternoon I'm going to go play golf. Why can't there be a high school golf tournament? Why? There's no difference. There's no difference in risk. You have maybe limit the amount of kids who are in a grouping if you want. Maybe make it so that some rules about taking the ball to the pin or something like that. But why? It makes no sense. Those sports are fine, and those are well within the rules from the state. I think in CIS defense, they probably want, like you're saying, everybody comes back or nobody comes back. I get that. I'm aware of that. But if all the cards laid on the table for me and I'm looking at them, I'm saying football is going to be really difficult to get approved. Basketball is going to be really hard to get approved. Maybe probably a third of the sports can be really hard to get approved, but there's that 1/3 that would be super easy. And why not just give those kids a chance to have a senior season? That's all I'm saying. And if you can, the earliest you tell people it's either a go or no is great, because then, hey, maybe I want to try a different sport that is COVID safe. And yeah, I lost my basketball season, but I can go try, I can go try golf, or I can go try, tennis. It gives give people the rules so they know what they can do.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying. And again, it's not CIS fault. It's not CIS fault. It's not. But I think you don't need to pull away the sports that are currently legal to play for anybody right now.
I do. I laugh now at the visual of just a large influx of wide receivers and defensive backs playing cross country, and
but they know track. Like they all do track
yeah.
anyway. Why just let them do track first? It makes no sense. The track is legal. You can go right now to a park and run around in a circle.
But my visual though was more the DK Metcalf type vibe of the one kid from Sarah who's the traditional cross country runner is about to win the race, and just here comes fill in the blank some big dude from Helix's secondary or something like that, or Kai. Yeah, exactly. Here comes Kai Jesse, just running down.
Honestly, that kid would be a great cross country runner. He's tall. I feel like that's like the ideal cross country body.
We'll put it on the poll at SD Prep Insider on Twitter and Instagram.
Jesse, if you get a cross country.
Yeah, exactly.
How about this? What football player would be the best cross country runner?
I was gonna go. Do you think defensive backs and wide receivers would win CIF cross country championships? We'll figure out some sort of polls.
What position would be the best cross country runner?
Deal. So what are we putting there as the categories?
Wide receiver, defensive back, running back. Throw quarterback in there too. Why not?
Who runs the backup quarterback? Like who does the most conditioning for never getting on the field type of vibe? The kickers.
The holder.
The whole.
Actually, get rid of quarterback. Put kicker.
Deal. As soon as Twitter comes up at SD Prep Insider on Twitter and Instagram. Tommy, I think that my other big thing that I'm looking at right now, also congrats to Mandela Tobin from Westview on announcing his commitment to Duke a few moments ago. Congratulations. Love to see that. It's for me, it's coming down to the fact.
On Twitter or Instagram?
He was on the other show
Twitter,
here in San Diego.
Yeah,
exactly.
You get that. That was a flight. Sorry.
Yep. Nope. Yeah. No. Always interesting making your choice to go on local news. Neither here nor there. We just don't have the right wing slant with the rest of our programming. I think that to me the biggest frustration though is people making the parallels of, well, this state has played 9 weeks or 10 weeks or whatever it is weeks of their football season, and 0 kids or 1 kid or 3 kids. And to me, that just feels like such incomplete science, because the same way that we are here in California talking about how, oh, yeah, we would have kids sign a waiver and there would not be like mandatory regular daily testing for everybody involved in this bubble. You just can't pick. I feel like you can't cherry pick numbers from other situations like that and just be like, oh, carte blanche, that means everybody in California feels safe. And that frustrates me because I'm like, what does that have to do with this?
No, and I don't think, first of all, you can't force kids to play. So if kids don't feel safe doing it, they shouldn't. But also, I will agree with you. The problem with the numbers are nobody's worried about the kids necessarily, because statistically, they're not going to be the ones who face the worst consequences. The concern is kid gets sick, kid goes home, gets whole family sick, oldest relative dies. That's the honest concern. That's the problem. So to say, oh, this many kids get sick, or oh, no kids are dying, fine, but the bigger concern is, well, what if the whole team gets it and then a bunch of the parents get it and then the grandparents get it? Like that's a concern. The concern is not, and again, obviously we're care about the kid's safety, but just given what we know about the numbers, the bigger concern would be if their parents got sick. So again, like I said, there's just not a lot of no examples of people getting it from playing in a game. It just doesn't happen. If you look at the NFL and college, it's every single time it's kids getting it from hanging out with each other outside of physically playing. Every single time. So it's really the police, and I think that's the other problem too. To be quite honest, I don't think that the powers that be trust those who are in charge of individual kids and teams to follow all the rules. They don't trust that a coach at school X is going to find out kid has COVID and not lie about it. They don't trust that. And if that's the case, that's unfortunate and it's sad. But I mean, with every rule that's made, they make it with the idea that some people are going to skirt the rules a little bit. So whatever they actually want to have happen, they need to make it like two levels stricter. So those who try and skirt the rules won't. Does that make any sense?
In a very weird, mischievous way, it does make sense. Yes.
Well, I mean, not to, again, we shouldn't talk about this on the show anyway, but the reason why the drinking age is 21 is not because they don't think kids younger than 21 are going to drink. They don't want 18-year-olds to be able to buy it because they're the same age as high school kids. That's why it's 21. So you got to make them serious. That's what it is. So it's a similar thing. You have to just make the rules a little bit stricter than what the reality of the situation is. And the reality of this is if they let kids play and they have kind of loosey-goosey rules about who's allowed to play and who's not given coronavirus, they're assuming that people are going to break it. So they're assuming that people will take it one step further than what they allow, if that makes any sense. And I think their concern is, well, if we let them play, the one step further is not reporting COVID cases, and we can't have that. And that's the concern. So it's unfortunate that we as society can't just be trusted, like, hey, here's the rules, go by them. Because it's like I said, there's this false sense of security when things start to go, quote unquote, back to normal that you think this virus is gone. It's not. Trust me, it's not. I know people, it's almost every other week I hear about somebody else getting it. You know, it happens all the time. But
So let me ask you this then. We're talking about right now saying pushing it back 3 weeks. I'm assuming that your confidence is darn near zero that that's going to see any sports being played. But where do you... Go ahead.
I just don't see how the situation is different now than it was in August. And unless somehow this vaccine gets pumped out like wildfire, you know, within the next 3 months, it's going to be difficult to make that decision. And I think a lot of this too comes on, well, who's liable if something bad goes wrong? Is it the coaches? Is it the school? Is it the district? Is it CIF? Is it the state? Nobody wants to fall on that sword. And that's another problem too. And I think, you know, the state, by putting those restrictions and guidances out there, is basically saying, like, we don't want to be responsible for putting out a rule that doesn't work. That's what it says to me. And so they're just trying to omit themselves from any sort of liability. And it's just, it's tough. It's tough. And it's an unprecedented, I hate using that word, but and when I use unprecedented, I don't mean like, obviously with the pandemic, there's no legal standard on this. If that makes any sense. Like, no one has tried to sue someone for this or that related to coronavirus yet, so we don't know what the ramifications are as far as the legal standpoint. And I know this is about life and death. It's not about money and politics, but at the end of the day, part of it too is about liability. So if we don't have any sort of proof that, okay, if God forbid a kid gets sick, something happens, you know, they signed the waiver, they acknowledge that this could potentially happen, and, you know, it's unfortunate, but it happened. Waivers only get you so much. So there's that issue too. And I think everybody's kind of sentiment from the powers that be is, I just don't want to touch it, because there's no upside for them. There's no upside in trying, but there's a massive downside from trying and failing.
The CDC has announced that, or I believe Pfizer has announced that 375,000 vaccines have already been allocated for the California state government to distribute as they see fit. And while that does sound impressive, Tommy, any guess at what the current population is for the state of California?
I would say roughly off the top of my head, 33.6 million.
39.
39 now?
39 million. So that shows you where those are a lot of doses, but those are really not a lot of doses. So as much as the vaccine is coming,
you got to take two of them also, so cut it in half.
Yep. So, you know, where the vaccine is here, it's not going to the people that are going to be able to help this equation tip it in its favor. So I wonder, though, at what point does it project out and say that, okay, we're here in January, but by mid-February, you know, X percentage of the population will be estimated to have received it. So we feel comfortable saying we are good to go. Or is this going to be something where the state is going to hold on to it so tightly that, you know, we'll wait until everybody actually has the 2 doses type level vaccinated to let this happen?
The magic number that I keep hearing is 60%. And that 60%, in that you include people who've already been infected and have recovered. So and I think right now, I mean, it's probably around, I haven't checked the numbers. How many people in San Diego have gotten it? Around 100,000? somewhere in there, I'd assume.
Yeah, I'll look for the numbers right
And
now.
there's 3.3 million people living in San Diego.
More or less.
All right, so that puts us at 1/3% of the people. Am I off on that, or am I off by a factor of 10 here? I'm off by a factor of 10. That means 3% of the population has had it.
Yes.
Okay, so we're at 3% right now. Realistically, and this is just me going off my research that I meticulously do every morning because I'm a psychopath. Around twice as many people who report to have had it or have tested positive probably already had it, and either A, didn't get tested, or B, were asymptomatic. So we're really at 6%. That means we would need 55% of the population to get vaccinated at this point. Now, there's going to be more infections coming. Don't get me this isn't a good thing, but it's going to happen. So I bet by the time the vaccines are well distributed, I bet at least 10% of the population has already gotten this thing. And then you need 50% more to get vaccinated for everyone to be fine. So we're going to the state of California. You said 39. I would say you need 20 million to get you half, and then they need 2. So 40 million vaccinations, I think, would be the magic number. That is me off the top of the head doing math, speculating, tons of speculation. Do not write that down and think that's the magic number, but this is my projection for it. You would need probably 40 million vaccines for people to be safe and to go back.
Yeah, I'm 86,000 and change is the total number of confirmed cases that have happened here in San Diego over the time period of the last X number of months. The time does not seem to really make quite as much sense as it used to.
It still feels like April, doesn't it?
I don't know, Tommy. It still feels like 2010. Who knows? But yeah, it's going to be interesting. We would, obviously love more clarity on that, but we won't. It sounds like we won't get any of that clarity until the beginning of next year, which I think is also the frustrating part, is that it's now we wait until January to wait potentially more time. So that is all of the actual statistical information for you guys that we know. Everything else, it has been rant and conjecture. What else do you got left, Tommy? Anything else, or has this been therapy for you? Have we cathartically got it all out for you now?
It has been a little bit therapy. I was totally killing myself in my car because I had no air conditioning on and I was sitting in the hot sun. I understand what babies go through now when parents lock in their car. You go kind of insane. But I just turned the air conditioning on, so we're good. I didn't want it on because it was too loud, but I couldn't help myself at this point. No, I mean, I hope that what we talked about wasn't too big of a buzzkill for some kids. I know a lot of kids are just really, really want to play and they don't care and they're anxious and they're sad and my heart goes out to them because I know personally for me, probably my favorite up until that point in my life, my favorite, period of time was my senior seasons for football and baseball. Those are my two favorite things that I got to do as a high schooler. And it would really be a bummer if it's taken away from all these kids. I know CIF and pretty much everybody wants to make a way for it to work, whether it be, I really think that they should do something where you give these kids a 5th year of let them go to junior college, give them a 5th year of high school if they want it. If they don't have to take it. I know it's not the same, but you either give them that or you have like a super varsity level, which is just all seniors, and you let some schools combine. You find a way to make it work. I think that would be kind of cool actually if every league has their own like super varsity team. So those are all just 5th year kids, and you let them go to JC and get some college credit, and then they miss on a year of college or whatever, but they get to do the super. They get some sort of a semblance of a senior season. Actually, I'm going to go with that idea. That's my idea. Patent that.
Deal.
Patent that right now.
We'll mark the tape.
Every league gets to combine to make a super senior team for those kids who want to stay and play an extra year, whatever sport it is, and then like that's their 5th year. Because I feel like you probably get most leagues have 4 or 5 teams. Probably about 25% of the kids who want to do it. That's enough to make like a team. We'll see. I don't know. That's my idea.
I will close my idea out as being the same thing I've kind of been saying all along. I don't know about all along, but for the last couple of weeks, is I think we're going to get league. I think they're going to push everything back 5 more weeks, cut the football season in half, and that stuff will get picked up in about what is that, like right around Valentine's Day, in February.
But what's gonna change in February?
enough doses of vaccines combined with enough of time will have elapsed to allow for hopefully infection numbers to be contained and lowered, because we've already proven that they can go down if everybody does do correct social distancing and or mask wearing and or following protocols and like the numbers went up and then the numbers went down. Like the cases did not stay linear growing over the last 9 months. They have gone up and down. So I'm thinking there will be some of that. I'm also thinking that for a lot of these districts, it's a financial thing, and them not having to do it from day one of the second semester, but from one of, we only have to do it for 4 months, 3 months, whatever it ends up being, as Tommy Morris disappears off of the face of this Zoom call. That's probably a fitting moment to call it goodbye. But I'll say this. I think that league season is going to be our best bet for getting that first season in a way that doesn't end up being, they just had to combine everything into that season too, and make it a little bit of a cluster F. This has been another episode of San Diego Prep Insider. I am your host, Christian Pedersen. Tommy Morris was the one ranting with us. Bodie and Noah will be joining us later in the week for their opinions on all of this. We hope you guys are staying safe and staying healthy, and we will talk to you guys soon.